Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast with visions of life one day finally be letting us stick to a schedule. Welcome to the podcast, I'm David Lloyd, and after an unscheduled 2-week hiatus, we're looking to get things back on track with a discussion about a game from one of our favorite developers, Square Enix. The topic for this week's episode is Visions of Mana, the latest entry in the long-running Mana series that dropped this week. Even though it's only been a few days as of this recording since the game has been released, this person has managed to complete Visions of Mana and is here to give us a spoiler-free review. It's Paige Chamberlain.
Well, I beat the game. I didn't complete the game. I'm not much. There's like a post game section, but I'm not much of a post game person. I did have a look at it though.
I'm of the opinion if you see the credits, it's complete.
Exactly. There's like I'm like, if it was important, it should be in the main story. Although that's like another thing though. Like I feel like I never actually finished Dragon Quest 11 because you've got the credits and then the post game is really just like a whole other act, like actually part of the story. But
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like Nier. I think Nier Automata was. I think you saw the credits like 6 times or something. Like it was.
Well, so that's more like if you're playing like certain visual novels and you have roots, so like you gotta
that's true too.
complete a certain. So like with the dating sims, it might be complete a certain character's story, and then eventually you can unlock the true ending one or things like that. So I think Nier Automata is more like that. Yeah.
In the case of AI Summoning Files, the game is not over until there's been a music video dance-a-thon at the end.
Yes, that's how you
not,
know.
It's not the credits. You look for the dancing.
Yes.
Yep.
I will say that there was no dance segment in this game though. So.
It's already lost a point then. Yeah, this is a game. I haven't picked it up yet myself. I do plan to get it at some point. It's funny, the Mana series is like I've dipped my toes into it throughout the years. It's been around since forever, which I'll get into in a bit because it's funny. Like it feels like there's been like 30 Mana games, but I guess there's only like really this is the 5th like main line, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, like the one that's not. Yeah, there's 3 versions of the first game, and
yeah, maybe I'll just run through that real quick.
2 of the second, 2 of the third.
Yeah. So it's the second dense. Oh man, here's
Densetsu.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Mage episode if I didn't blow the Japanese language. Yeah, so 4 games basically have been released before Visions of Mana. There was Final Fantasy Adventure, that was the Game Boy game. There's Secret of Mana, which I think most people would know as the Super Nintendo game back in the 90s. There was Trials of Mana, which was released for the Super Famicom, which eventually did get a remake. I guess it was a couple years ago now, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago, for pretty much all the different consoles at this point. And then finally is Legend of Mana, which was made for the PlayStation. So in between, it's a big gap when you think about like the last like kind of mainline games.
Well, yeah, because it's got the mainline listed as 1, 2, 3, and then Dawn of Mana. It reckons is the mainline one, whereas it reckons Legend, Children.
There's
another DS game. Yeah. All the phone games and DS games are apparently spin-offs. So.
Yeah, they're like all I guess considered part of like the Mana sub-series, but Children of Mana was in 2006. It was a dungeon crawler for DS. Friends of Mana was a Japanese only mobile game.
A lot of them. There's a couple DS games and a lot of phone games.
Oh yeah,
Dawn of Mana. I think Legend of Mana is like the one that got a recent port, 2021, recent-ish port, and that's also considered a spin-off. But yeah, but there's plenty game is considered mainline. So.
And I'm so like for me personally, like I'm fairly certain I own all these games now because I went on a recent binge of buying Square Enix games from the Retro Game Store, and I'm just looking at the list and like they all sound familiar. and I've probably played. Oh man, I'm pretty sure I played most of these. Like I definitely played Final Fantasy Adventure. I don't think I beat it. I think I got about halfway through. I kind of fell off Secret of Mana. I know it was a big Super Nintendo game, but I don't know. I just the action combat just wasn't doing it for me.
I was waiting for the because as they Secret of Mana had like a 3D remake, but a lot of people didn't like it, and the only reason I can say is people didn't like. I guess it's just kind of a low budget 3D remake. Um, that's the only particular. I don't know what else they would have changed. People didn't like. I guess people just really liked the pixel art. But I know I found like like a bonus digital content code for it, so I've entered that without owning the game. So I'm waiting for it to be like 75% off. I don't want to,
Yeah,
because it's like I want it to be $15, not 60. Like sometimes it goes like 30, and I'm like, I don't want to spend 30 on that though.
yeah. That seems like a good candidate for a nice little discount. So, so what's your personal history like? I know you were really into Vision. Like, I know you're excited for it, and clearly, you definitely were into it because you ended up beating it in about 3 days. But I'm curious, like, leading into it, was there like, have you always enjoyed the Mana series, or is this game
Not
particular?
really. I played a little bit of Trials of Mana, and then I put it down because like I was doing like game reviews and stuff. I went back to it and I realized I had played a lot less than I thought. I'd only played like 4 hours. I thought I was a bit further than that. But I guess I think it's pretty common for this game to have a lot of boss fights and stuff. So I guess you can feel like you're getting somewhere when you maybe not. Because that was the remake with slightly more budget than the Secret of Mana one. Voice acting and all that, which people have mixed opinions on too. I didn't think there was anything wrong with Charlotte, the Mage of Wendell, but then I thought like actually one of the other girls, she was very bland sounding. So I thought people were just complaining about the one that had like the funny voice, but I was like, oh, the other one just sounds so not in, and not the same way as like I think Mage Angela. She's just being sarcastic and stuff, but yeah, I think I do definitely. I would say the Visions of Mana voice acting is definitely better.
Yeah, well, even just from the trailers, I could. It seemed like I don't know if it necessarily has a bigger budget than Trials of Mana, or if it was.
Did.
Oh yeah, lot more.
No.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't on the Switch for one thing, and you can tell it's not a Switch game. You look at the game; it is. Visions of Mana is a really pretty game.
Oh, that's good.
Like really, like oh my god, like especially because you go like your part is like your journey is going to the Mana Tree, and like when you get around that area, it does look like like in 3D though, not like that art of the original like Secret of Mana and that covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some people talking about wanting a Switch port, and I just I don't know. I feel like it would be such a downgrade. I still really like my Switch and play it a lot, but it's definitely now that I played this game, I'm like, oh wow, games can look really nice when they don't have to release on the Nintendo Switch. Which is really sad because, like I said, I like the Switch, but also that's kind of the platform that everyone's going for. Yeah, because everyone now is like sort of switched to Nintendo. Like even when the Switch first came out, I thought, it's like Vita 2 basically, and now even just more in general, people like Square Enix has said they want to do multi-platform. They realize not releasing things on PC or Switch or things like that is obviously not good for them. So I assume they will still do like stuff that the Switch successor can't do, but it definitely. Yeah, it is kind of sad because like a game, it's like games that could look as nice as this might not be able to do that because they want to put it on everything.
It'll be definitely hard to port with no developers too.
Yes, yes, that's so the day after the game released, the Studio Oka, who was the ones that were like developing it, they're owned by Tencent, and I guess they were contracted out by Square Enix. They're getting shut down.
Yeah, Now, I do want to point out that it wasn't Square Enix's.
No, it's
not Square
not.
Enix. It's apparently like Tencent and
Yes.
NetEase, I guess, own the studio, and they decided that they did not. I guess Tencent and like they're both scaling back their operations in Japan, I guess. So they're like shutting down Japanese studios. So I guess, I guess they're shutting this one down.
Unfortunately, I don't think Square Enix has the money to pick up any of these guys. They don't seem to be doing too well themselves. So maybe we can ask Krafton to save these guys as well, like they did with Tengu. But that's, I was literally thinking, I'm like, there's some minor things where I'm like, oh, maybe they could update. Oh no, they can't update the game.
Yeah,
that's actually saying the game's so pretty. There's not going to be a photo mode.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because there's no photo mode, and it's like, it's really annoying because I'm like, I want all the UI and stuff to go away. It's like, I'm not. It's so many of the areas. It's just like, whoa, it's so nice. But yeah, in terms of like the actual game itself, so yeah, the story is about, so every 4 years, someone from each village is chosen by the elemental, which are these tiny little guys that I guess control an element, like the one of fire, etc. They're chosen, and they have to go to the mana tree and sacrifice their souls to ensure that the world has enough mana to keep going. Which I thought was a bit. I think the every 4 years seems a bit. The starting town doesn't look very big. I'm sort of wondering how.
I was just gonna say that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Like, there's a city in the game, and you're like, okay, well that'll be fine. But like the starting village is not. I'm like, how are they having enough kids to even supplies? But the thing in this world is like, it's totally cool. They're okay with it. They're honored. People want to be the arm, is what they're called. Sacrifice. It's seen as, because like only like the best person is basically picked to be it. Like the elemental's like, the person who's the best representation of that element.
The chosen ones.
Yes, chosen ones to die. So it's privilege, really, and they're so it's very interesting that for quite a while, none of them even question it. Like, I think the main thing is the main character is called Val, and he's the soul guard. So it always starts, the pilgrimage starts at the village of fire, and then you go and pick up all the other arms on the way to the mana tree, and his job is to look after them and make sure they stay alive until they
until they die,
and until they're meant to die. But you clearly have a love interest, and she gets chosen as the arm. And they do both. They both seem totally like happy with it because they get to explore the world, and like a lot of people, like say the second village you go to, the people in that one, they're not really allowed outside of town. So, for some people this is like the even though they're gonna die, it's also like, oh, they get to actually view the world, and they're happy because they get to travel together basically. So it's not until like a little bit in where they start, feeling that regret of knowing that they can't keep doing this forever. And that's like a real big part of plot overall, is like sacrifice, and losing loved ones especially. But it is very interesting because generally the world's actually quite peaceful. There's monsters, but like there's, I guess it's just sort of one, like politics wise, it's like there's trouble, like there's trouble in one place where you go because one of the party members you pick up is the queen. So there's politics. So there's some political trouble there because you're like, now we have to make sure that the guy that's trying to cause trouble with the successor doesn't do that. But like generally, it's like the world doesn't seem like it's in mortal peril, but that's basically because of the sacrifices, and people know that it's true. I guess the reason they don't question it is that 4 years ago they didn't have an arm for the Earth Village, and since then that entire island's been like desertified, like completely, like it's uninhabitable, and the soil doesn't, nothing grows there, like here, like there, and the same with the moon area, like everyone there just disappeared. So like yeah, people, I guess part of why people are okay with it is
Say,
that like they know that
there's
if they
clearly
don't, yeah,
consequences. Yeah.
it's not like a tradition just because it's like an actual, yeah. So I won't get too much more into that. But what I do like, I think about this compared to Trials is you only have 3 party members in combat, but you pick up everyone for the story. Whereas in like Trials, you only once you've picked up your 2 other people, that's it. So you have to do like a replay to get the other person's stories.
Okay.
Whereas this is one continuous story, everyone's together. It's more of a typical sort of JRPG. You've got your party members, you'll become friends, you'll have character development, you go through your journey together, you know?
Yeah.
So it works a bit better that way. Especially there's like probably one character I didn't use too much, but combat wise. So yeah, it's an action RPG. And like I said, you've got the 3-party team, so you've got your basic melee attack and the magic. So as you go through the game, you'll learn new spells, and you got the MP bar. I ended up not using that until a bit further into the game. I'm like, I should probably use like the freezing spell. That might be useful. And then you have a quick menu, so you can assign like 4 spells to easily access with like the button press, or you've got like the whole ring menu. You can kind of go through all your equipped abilities. And the good thing about that is like the AI. So I didn't realize that my guys are actually putting buffs and stuff on me because they just they had it unlocked. So so by default they were just doing things like that, and I didn't realize until a while in. So I think that because you're only controlling one at a time, I think the AI partners are pretty good. They do not get out of the way of any of the AOE attacks at all. So you do have to kind of
so you got to switch to them and move them, and
you gotta. I didn't. Well, some of these, like, I only have time to get one person out of there. But you've just got to babysit their health a bit, throwing items at them.
Do you switch? Like, can you switch on the fly, kind of like
So
in
during combat,
Remake
you
and
can
Rebirth?
switch on the fly in between the 3 party
Yeah.
members.
Okay.
There's some weird stuff like in town, you have to play as Val, and you can't switch your party around until you've gotten out of a town, like, and into the other areas, which is a bit annoying because I'm like, how the hell do I do this? It's like I just can't do it in that area. I can't change my party setup basically because you have like 3 at a time.
Okay.
But and plus the AI, you can put on strategy as well. So one character who's really magic attacks, I go, you can use your magic spells up until you only have 25% of your MP left, and you can make it so they focus on the same enemy as you, or you can make it so they focus on other enemies. So normally it's by default to other enemies, so that way they kind of try to take care of some of the other guys for you, because there'll be some it's like same as Trials of Mana, like it's in a ring, so you
Yeah.
like you walk into it and that's like an encounter, like you can already see them, but there can be quite a few of them, so it's good to and then they'll use all their abilities as long as you haven't set the setting to not do that, basically. So
It reminds me of like Final Fantasy 12, where you could set. I think they called it the Gambit system, where you'd prioritize, like, there's like, you could have a list of commands and then prioritize, attack enemies that are like, attack the lowest health enemy or attack the highest health, or like stop using cure magic when you're down to a certain point or stuff like that. So it's kind of sounds like it's a little bit like that.
I would say it's probably a bit simpler than that, from I guess pictures I've seen. But yeah, it's good. It is like you can. So if you're gonna do a boss fight, maybe you want to change. You can just like you can. Well, that's the one thing you can change during boss fight. You can actually pause, and like the strategy option will still be available to you in combat. Whereas like you can't change who's in your party or change their class while you're in a battle. But, which sometimes I'm like, all right, let me just load back out because I'm at an elemental disadvantage here. So yeah, one of the things is like the elements. So you separate to the arms things, there's these elemental vessels, and so these are what enables your classes basically. So you'll get one, and you can put, even though the arms are of specific, like the firearm, whatever, they're not restricted to just being the fire character. So they can all be any of the elements that as you unlock throughout the story. And then they'll get a different outfit and class. And so each character has about 3 different weapons. So, for example, Palomina, she's got a squirrel tail. Like, these people have squirrel tails, but no squirrel ears. It kind of annoys me. They're people with a squirrel tail, and that's it. Whereas like you've got another guy, and he's just an anthropomorphic cat guy. Like he's the whole thing. And like you've got a dragon girl, so she's got a wing and horns and a tail, so it's and little claw feet. I really like her. I really like the character designs a lot, actually, and some of the outfits. Some of them I don't like. But what was I saying? So yeah, so the queen, she can have a scythe, a whip, or like kicking attack, and so that determines like your melee moveset basically, and also like what equipment you'll have to equip. So those three different weapons are split between certain elements, and yeah, so and like most of those are unique to her. Whereas say Karina, she's got fans, fist punching, or I forget what her other weapon was because a spear. Yeah. So most of that, some of them might have similar melee move sets, but it's mostly pretty different, even because they've got different weapons they can use depending on their class. But I pretty much stuck with the same classes because one of the things they have is their special cooldown move. So they're actually like using the elemental vessel, and some of them are very busted. Like the Undying Blast is like you shoot out a big gush of water, and then it puts them in a bubble, and then if the bubble pops, that deals a bunch of damage. So especially if you're in a smaller enclosed area, because like the water pushes them back, so it sort of stops you from completely. But if you're in a smaller enclosed area, you blast the water, it puts them in a bubble, you pop it, then they get put in like, so you can do like twice on them, and it's really good for taking down mobs, and some bosses as well. It just sort of depends because like sometimes you get too far away, and then the moon one slows down time, so they can if like the boss steps their foot in that spot, then they're stuck, like they're really slow for a minute or so. And yeah, different ones like that. Some aren't like as useful, I find. And then another one, like I liked the dark one where it was like it would either pull you to the boss if like it's a big guy, but if it pulled the little guys to you. So it was really annoying to have my party member have that ability because I'd be flailing on this guy in the air and he just pull him away from me, and I'm like, dude, it's like, so yeah, I basically generally kept Palomino as the water one because it was just super busted. Aside from when we went to a water area or ice, and then they were immune, so I had to change. I just changed who I was playing as. Another one that's really cool, one of the late ones you unlock is light, and like their special ability is like similar to like the water thing. Like in the characters, it'll connect monsters sort of to each other via the light, and then any damage you deal to one of the monsters will deal to all of them. So there's some really good crowd control ones, and they're like not like pretty. I don't know how short the cooldown is, maybe like a minute or something, and then it depends because like with the water one or the fire one, if they have the water on them or the burn on them, your countdown doesn't start until that's completely gone away, so it can be a lot longer of a wait.
Okay.
And then partway through the game, so you got the skill tree basically called the elemental plot, and as you unlock that with these items, basically all you have to do is like switch the characters to the different classes, which you have to go through the animation each time, but then you can unlock with the elemental points as you find them and get them. But you could get abilities from any element if you went up the tree, because they're like on a row each, so you gotta like buy them in a row. Like the passive abilities are specific to whatever class they have equipped, so they're not going to carry over. But certain moves will carry over, so they can still use specific moves that you have unlocked anyway. So that's really useful to sort of, sorry, are you playing something?
Yeah, sorry. I was bringing up the Visions of Mana on Steam because okay. I was like,
yeah, Steam's rude with that. They always like stop blasting music, and I'm like, I was doing.
What was even worse too, because because it came out right there's the broadcasting like the develop. Well,
oh yeah, that's.
I'm not sure what developers are actually playing because like you said, the studio shut down, but somebody from the developers are playing the game, so there's like a stream. And I thought I had turned that off, and then but then the trailer like kicked in.
Some supervision from like Square Enix, obviously, because it's their series, and like some of the people from like the work on the series were working on it, but the main people that were Studio Ogre. yeah, so it's useful to, like, I didn't swap around classes too much, but then it was useful because I'm like, hey, this character can still have a healing ability or whatever, even if they're a different class, which can be useful for them to help themselves sometimes. That's nice, not to know. You know? I did just play it on normal. And the other thing is you get ability seeds, which are same thing. So like they're like just like another equipment slot. You know how like some games you have rings or whatever? It's like the equivalent of that, except some of them are skill, so like it increases, intelligence. I mean stats. Sorry, yeah, like increases stats. Others are like null, so you can null status effects. So, I get one of those, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm up to a fire boss. I'm going to put null burl on my main character that I play as. Like the one I'm probably going to use for the fight, just to and also abilities. So, for example, some of those abilities are stuck to like you can only do them if you're on that class or you've unlocked it. But with the ability seed, you don't need to unlock it. You just need to equip it in this separate thing. So I could still do certain summons and stuff without having to have gone through that other process. So there's definitely like a heap of customizability, and it's really interesting to see people using like the same characters but generally going with the different classes.
Okay.
Because I'm like, oh, you're like using that character but a different class. And then, like I said, sometimes the outfits influence it as well. Although I did find that Karina's fire ability was mostly useful, aside from like I swapped her out for like a boss fight that was on fire, but like that was pretty useful, and I like to dress a lot, so because they stay in the cutscenes and everything, so which can be a bit funny. Some of them, like I think the Queen's default outfit is already kind of exposed, so it's funny to be even more so with the water outfit she's got on, and then when she's using the scythe, one of her attacks is spinning around it, and it's like, it's interesting. One thing I forgot to mention. So the vessels, once you like go through the animal to plot, then you have a separate meter that builds up over time. So when you hold down the button to use the elemental vessel, you can actually temporarily make the arena like that element. So your attacks of that element will do more damage, and your vessel will actually recharge faster. Like it'll be on like a 10-second cooldown. So like it's like I would pour through a couple of the fire bosses because I've got the like I said, the Undying Blast. So I filled the arena with water, and then just shot the water straight at them, and I think the only other extra move is the class strike, which is just dependent. So it's just like a big ultimate move. Basically, it basically insta kills any mobs, but whereas it only takes a nice amount of the boss's health depending on your like level comparison. But say for example, I've put the water around and I use the class strike, that'll do more damage than if I hadn't set that up. So sometimes I'm waiting to like it's a separate meter that builds up as you hit and get hit. But sometimes I'm just waiting for the other thing to build up so I can double whammy it and it'll be more effective. Things like that. So that's, I think, basically the gist of the combat. I know some people have complained that it's sort of kind of slow and a bit floaty, but I think eventually after I played it for a while, I got pretty used to that. I just had to also get used to the character's moves. So like with the guys in the air, you've got to really knock them down before you can even really hit them much, unless you're just going to stand around and shoot magic, which takes a while depending on the spell. But one of them, their down air attack is not really useful for knocking them down, so I had to remember to not use her for that. And I was just looking up combat tips, even though I already beat the game, just to remember what things were called. Someone's saying don't use the auto camera because it's actually really annoying and doesn't like follow you when you're doing certain things. So that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, one other thing the elemental thing does is the game has a lot of not a lot, but you're going through different areas and you have some traversal as well, I guess. So like one is like bubbles, and then so you activate it and then the bubbles float up. I didn't realize you could actually personally move the bubbles aside from like them going up left and right until a bit further in, and I was like, oh. and you gotta sometimes it's just sort of a puzzle, but not really a puzzle. You just gotta go find where the thing is, activate it, and then you can jump up high in the air because you've got the little wind spirits to do something in a spot. One thing I didn't really engage with is there's these little challenges, it's a time trial where you've got about 3 waves of enemies and you have to take them out within a certain amount of time. And usually when you find them, the enemies are much higher level than where you're up to in the game. And you don't get any XP or anything for it. It's basically you unlock it and then you'll unlock more time. So if you do all of the ones of that element, then there's a big tower and it says you'll get a reward to make you very powerful. And I'm I don't I didn't need it to beat the game, so I don't care. We're not into challenge stuff really.
It's for the completionists out there.
Yeah, and I guess it might help for, like I said, there's a post-game chapter, and it basically, there's no point in no return in this game, so basically you just gotta, because you can, literally, the save point before the final boss, you can go back out or whatever. Although when you do load it from the completed save, it does kick you out, so you don't have to, do it yourself, because it's actually kind of a pain in the ass. I was I need to buy more items, because you can have, the items in battle is only from the ring menu, so a certain amount, and then you can't use all 50 chocolates you have in a fight. You can only hold 9 or whatever, so I had to I'd actually run out and had to go buy some more. And the fast travel system in this game is you can only fast travel within the map you're in, so you can fast travel to the exit towards the other side, but this last area, obviously that took a lot more time to get in and out of, so but yeah, you're not stuck really at any point. There's a couple, story bits, but really you're not really ever stuck or restricted in the game very much. Other than, there's obviously some sections where I guess one of the post game bosses are, and it's no, we can't go there. There's a dangerous presence. It's too strong, and I'm oh, okay. All right.
At least it tells you.
Yeah. So I had a look at it and it was it's boss fights already done, but they're a higher level, and I think one of them was super easy, another one I'm no, I don't want to fight those guys again. One thing, yeah, there's a lot of boss fights in this. Especially the second last chapter basically is pretty long, I'd say. I won't say what, but you go through a lot of almost mini dungeons. And yeah, they've got mid bosses, and I found the mid bosses were usually harder than the actual boss. So I don't know what that's about. one of them was almost as tough as a fight as the final boss. I found I was basically 2 levels behind the whole game, and this one boss though, he was a vampire, and he'd pick you up or one of your party members up and would just get 1400 health back. So, very annoying. So I'm not only stopping myself from getting hit, but I've got to try and babysit and stop the other characters from getting eaten. So it just took a lot of time and resources to actually whittle his health down.
I guess the developer in charge of that boss got overly ambitious.
Yeah. Well, someone said that it did actually get patched. I think because comments on the demo were that the bosses had a bit too much HP, so they kind of just went on for too long. So they did change that a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And from the demo was the squid type boss or whatever, and then I think he was definitely a little bit. He didn't keep doing one of the same moves that didn't actually really hurt you that much. I hope, because in the demo he kept tipping the ship over 4 times, when it's the kind of thing where it seems like it's a halfway point of the match, but it's not. It just kept happening. It was really annoying, but he didn't do that as much in the full game. Yeah, most of the bosses are pretty straightforward. You've got arenas, there's some jars to refill, some of your health or magic or whatever. But it would be really annoying because the really big bosses would smash the jars, and then I was trying to save those for later. You've just filled up something that's already full, you
yeah.
How dare you? But yeah, definitely I feel boss fights is there's a fair bit of those in here. And they don't make you repeat them too much. It's like I said, the post game basically, and I would, although if you have played other mana games, you will be okay, this is the same crab and this is the same mole, and so maybe that's why they got so many, is because they can just reuse some of the old ones, and then they will have more time to come up with new ones as well.
Wouldn't be a long running franchise if they didn't reuse or remake assets.
Yeah, I mean they definitely would have touched them up, but they are like the same. It's the same crab and the same mosh. Just like they look a lot better, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got some different moves or something. Yeah, I think, and side quests are pretty like they're basic. It's like go here and find something, kill these monsters. It is sort of annoying though because most of the side quests don't activate like until you've done the thing in the story there, and then I come back, and then I'm like, oh, there's side quest now. Especially in like one of the last chapters of the game, it's like you're doing, you're getting some character development with the characters, so you're sort of like going back to their towns, which is not something you normally do because normally you'd be expected to be dead by now. Because you're supposed to, just like pick up and go through a straight line, but obviously something happens and you have to take care of that first, basically. It's a bit more, there's no, I think the point is there's no point in sacrificing yourself for the world if there is another threat that's going to stop that from there being one in the first place.
At least they're being responsible.
Yes, like they said, yeah. They said this is probably the most difficult pilgrimage any of them have, like the other ones probably had not anywhere near of a tough time as they did. So you go back to these towns that some of them weren't expecting to. You get some character development, see what's happened, and so you do that, and then it kicks you back out to like go to the next thing, like because that's the point you unlock the flying basically. So it kicks you back into the sky. So if you go back into it, then you'll have more side quests, including one that's actually connected to your party member. But like, why would you go back into it when it forcibly kicked you out? I did them for a little bit because I like doing stuff like that, and it just helps with you keeping the same sort of level because it keeps you out in the world. Especially the first few areas, especially are really big, and there's so many shiny things to pick up. And like the grizzly syrup to maintain, which gets annoying. They keep saying, when you're playing that action, any game, and they keep having the same voice lines, it gets a bit.
Oh
yeah. It's really funny. It happens in the boss fights too. Like time to use the elemental vet, and it cuts off because like we already finished beating the boss. They're like, I'm already using it. It's alright. Like, and the treasure chests are also like pointed out on the map as well. Like they've all got the pillars of light that you go towards. So I was very distracted by that. After a while I didn't care too much, but then you usually did, one treasure chest might just have money, one might have like, just an item, but then one would have like better armor or some weapon than you had. So it was like definitely incentive to actually be looking for them. But I did definitely didn't do it as much further on. I was just like going through the game because I was like, well, might come back later, and I did. I did. I assumed it wasn't going to end as soon as they were implying it would, because then it would be a really short game, and I think there'd be more than one 5 out of 10 review if that was the case.
Yeah, so you said it was about 23 hours for you to complete it. That still seems like a decent...
I would call it, like, for an RPG, I would call it short. Because I just thought it would be 40 hours, and then I'm on 17 hours in, I'm like, there's no way that this game is going to be twice as long. Like this. I'm accounting for, there might be a whole nother extra area, like things like that, but like, no, there couldn't possibly. There is like a post-game chapter, and I said there's trials as well, which I guess maybe you'd want to do them before you do the post-game, because like, I guess the level difference that was one thing I found was I was 2 levels behind most enemies and stuff, and that was pretty much fine. But when I went to the final area, say I was 2 levels behind the boss I just did, and then I caught up like I was 1 level behind then. So that was like level 40. I was like level 48. I go to the very next area, and the enemies are level 55.
Oh.
And I'm like, so I tried to grind a bit, but like you've got like these items, say like cookies, where you can eat them and then you'll have a XP bonus for like 10 minutes or whatever. But then depending on like the areas that seem to have lots of enemies were sort of the low level areas where you could just run into like guy after group after group, and you have the same thing where it's like if you beat enemies within a certain amount of time you get XP bonus, things like that. So what I ended up doing was I went up like 2 levels, but I ended up just pushing forward. So by the time I caught up to that level, the enemies were once again 6 levels ahead of me. So, But on normal difficulty, I managed to beat the final boss, and that was 6 levels above me. So
Okay.
it was by the skin of my teeth. I'd run out of all of my healing items, including like the revives and stuff. But like I said, I made use of like the there was 2 jars to build up the class strike. I smashed that. I dodged a certain pattern, and then I like did my. I thankfully the last character alive was with the time freezing, so that helped me get the last special attack in. So I didn't have. I was going to say actually, I think there's only one boss fight I had to do twice in this. It's kind of like I said. I was like, sometimes I'm playing RPG and I'm like, maybe I should put it on hard, but then because I didn't put it on hard, I don't have to grind.
Yeah.
And like grinding would sort of, especially like in that game, would like really take away my enjoyment. Even if I did find, and I did find some of the bosses challenging. Like I said, some of the mid bosses more than the story, like the main ones that we're going to go get, which was funny. So maybe they just didn't get adjusted. I don't know why some of them are harder, but maybe it's just the elements I had on all my techniques. But
that's a great way to end the game, though. Like, there's nothing better than winning by like this, just winning. Like that's I remember I beaten Persona 5 a couple times, and in both cases, I was doing the attack, and I'm like, if this doesn't kill the boss, then
then it's over. Yeah, pretty much.
And then in both cases, the boss died, and I like just a sigh of relief. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. So I think that's the gist of it, of all the different gameplay and stuff. And I said it's just nice to play. Like, you just want to play a JRPG.
Yeah.
Like it's an action one, but like it's like they've got the party members, they've got the like I said, they've got that people getting to know each other, having character development, going through a journey, getting to see beautiful landscapes, fight some funny monsters. That one of the status effects, I didn't get it until close to the end of the game, is you can get turned into a Moogle.
Oh, that's funny.
And then you just don't do anything and say "kupo kupo," like, and it's like the character's voice acting that. So I couldn't get any good pictures of it myself because it was like I'm in the middle of a boss fight, not trying not to die. I'm gonna like cure my party members as soon as I can. But so they do, like I said, it was originally a Final Fantasy spin-off, so I know that the first game sort of had Final Fantasy enemies, and then as they remade that, they sort of changed most of them to.
Yeah.
But you can see it somewhat, like for example, not that you saw much of them, but like there were some characters that sort of look like how goblins look like in some of the Final Fantasy games and stuff like that. But it is mostly like their own cute like character designs and stuff, like exploding pumpkins and ducks that throw grenades and stuff. Like it's very. It does remind me a little bit of Dragon Quest in that way, where you've got the silly character like monster designs, and.
I was gonna say, like, even the characters, like I was looking at the character designs, like it's very, very colorful, very detailed, but it does give me it's almost like a more detailed Dragon Quest.
Yeah, I was like when I was playing it, I'm like, man, I wish Dragon Quest looked as nice.
That's what I was gonna say, like, because like Dragon Quest 11 looked really nice, but it was still, I don't know if low poly is like the way to put it, but it's not as detailed. Like it's still kind of like thicker colors and stuff. Where there's a lot of fine details here.
One thing this game doesn't do very good is the character faces. They all have like plasticky cherub doll faces that really don't move much. So you kind of just got to ignore that, because like I've played games like Atelier or whatever where they've got the flat faces, so they do look doll-like, but because they're anime faces, they still do the expressions,
Yeah.
Whereas this, you didn't really get much of that, and you can see. Sometimes you can see that, like, this bit was a bit less budget because they made the game too pretty. Where, like, characters talking and, like, they only have so many animations. So I'm, like, seeing the same one, and I feel like they should have not done a random arm wave at that point. But
yeah.
I would say, I don't really have any particular faults with the game, though.
It's funny because I was reading about how it was getting mixed reviews, but then I kept going to all these different, like the places I usually go, like like RPG Site gave it an 80, RPG Fan gave it an 87, and I'm like, what's this mixed stuff? Like, it seems like
it's one review, right?
Yeah.
So they're saying mixed reviews, and then it's like one review. It's just the GameSpot review. Where like I'm gonna like look it up because there's one statement like people were sharing that, and people were like, well, that's kind of
maybe they're like, I don't like action RPGs.
Maybe, but like they didn't like the story very much at all.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what they're expecting. I guess maybe they thought that all of these nice characters were going to turn on the world and let them die or something. Like, I don't know what else, I'm just really not sure what you're expecting. And yeah, they didn't seem to like the traversal and all that stuff. I would say there's a couple points where like the platforming was like you had to make a jump, and then I would have to make sure I'm running and jump and do the double jump to make it. Like, it would be very tight. Thankfully, like when you fall down, you like don't lose any health, but it was just like, this is really like killing the momentum here. I'm stuck on this spot for like a bit till I can get past this 2 particular jumps. And I was like, but not enough to like super annoy me.
Yeah, like the Steam reviews are all very like it's got a very positive rating on Steam right now. So it seems like even the people playing, like the non-critics or whatever, seem to be enjoying the game too. Steam Deck, it's playable on Steam Deck. Apparently some in-game text might be small, but otherwise it's fully playable. So
yeah,
that's good.
Their ending comment was, there's a game here for someone willing to lower their standards enough, but trust me when I say there are hundreds of better RPGs for you to spend your time on. You need not to waste it searching for a few nuggets buried here.
Ouch.
I think it just, sometimes, I think we should have different people playing different games, because you do want to read that variety of comments. But the way it reads is almost like they just didn't. They would have dropped the game if they could, but because they're a reviewer, they can't do that, basically.
Well, not everybody's gonna like every game, but I mean, from what it is, I'm just looking at screenshots and stuff. I'm like, man, it is beautiful. Like it looks good. So I'm looking forward to picking it up at some point. What would it sounds like you were a fan? Yeah.
I'd say like 7 to 8. I sort of I lowered it down a bit because I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm just being because of influenced by the graphics being so nice. But it's a solid game. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. Nothing like particularly.
You played a PS5, right?
Yeah.
PS5 version? Yeah.
I do hear to not play it on the PS4.
Oh, okay.
Just performance-wise. I heard that before the game came out, so... like, people thought it was going to get delayed because of the PS4 version, so...
Oh, that's too bad.
So hopefully that's not too bad now. But yeah, I just played on the PS5. I did end up switching it to performance mode, though, because it did, like... feel a bit like I was getting that slightly uncomfortable feeling, so I changed it, and then I didn't have any problems with, I guess, frame rate, and it still looked really pretty even with that on. So, and I think it helps now. Like, like I said a while ago, I finally got an OLED TV, and then I get games like this, or even like I was talking about, even Cat Quest, and it's like some of these indie games, and like, wow, the colors really. I feel like you can almost tell maybe if some of the devs themselves had a OLED display because of just how much the colors really pop out more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I just think it's a nice, solid RPG. Nothing about it is particularly like, story-wise, is nothing particularly special or character-wise, or like, nothing about it really stands out, but nothing about it's wrong, and it's quite fun to play. So
yeah,
and that's what
just a solid experience, I guess. At the end of the day,
yes, that's what you want. Sometimes you just want to play a game that doesn't suck.
That's it. They can't all be Rebirth and Persona 5.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Hopefully, they're not all Broken Reds and Bandle Tales.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, well, like I said about different review perspectives, as yeah, you get mixed. Like one game I reviewed, I really didn't like. I gave it like a 5, and then it's either everyone was either giving it 5s or like 8s and 9s. I was like, what? So it's different. People either really liked it or really didn't, So it's so unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this game will get any updates. I didn't think there was any room for DLC, but like I was hoping at least like a photo mode. And I'm pretty sad knowing like I really liked this game and the people that did, but some of the work on this don't have a job so far.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, they land on their feet somewhere, or you would think that maybe, I don't know if Square Enix would pick up. Like, you would think just so few games come out anymore that are like that don't need updates. So it's one of those things where it's like at some point someone's gonna have to probably go in there and fix some bugs and stuff. So you would hope that somebody's there to make some changes, but
yeah, like I said, Square doesn't seem to have the money for anything at the moment.
No, well, it might. I guess it probably depend on how much money it makes. I guess because like if it's selling well, maybe they'll
And now people are like, oh, I don't want to buy it, even though it's like, well, the people already got paid, and it's not the publisher, it's not the IP owner's fault that this is happening, really.
No, at the end of the day,
don't punish the game because one of the parent companies of the contracted studio has pulled the plug on them before they could even. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even, when it comes to these shutdowns, like it's just about making the big line go up. It's not about whether or not they can make good games or good products. It's about, well, if I cut my expenses, our profit will go up. So they just cut them without any care in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad. Like Tencent, like they're like must be making money hand over fist. So it's too bad that they're just like the games.
And that's why a lot of this game stuff is so weird, because it's like, so certain companies, like they'll just have, not a game company, but certain companies, they will just have a store in a town that doesn't make money just so that like they have presence there.
Yeah.
Just so that it's there and they're competing against their competitor. So it's interesting. Yeah, well, not interesting, sad. Just like disappointing.
Yeah.
And I am mad as well.
Well, that's hopefully the folks, it sounds like the people at Uka Studios made a good game, and hopefully that translates into them finding work elsewhere. I read that they might get picked up, or some of the people, I guess, might get picked up by like Capcom and Bandai Namco. So hopefully that works out. So
Capcom used to do RPGs, right? Maybe they can do a what's it, Breath of Fire or whatever.
Yeah, or they still lots going into Monster Hunter and stuff like that too. Like another action RPG. So
yeah, well, I mean, just in terms of if they got picked up by Capcom, what they could work on some of these other series that haven't had anything for a while.
Yeah, and Capcom's doing pretty good. Well, and Bandai Namco does a lot of stuff. Like they're still making the Tales of games. So I mean, again, this, and it kind of has a similar look to it, really, like Mana and the Tales games. Well, and similar, like they do the same sort of action RPG too, where there's like a circle or arena or whatever that turns on when you get close to an enemy, and they you can switch between characters, if I recall, in the last one. So I mean, there's opportunities there, I guess.
Yeah, so that's just it's pretty, like you said, like and for Americans, it was like the game only just came out that day and they heard the news. Like it was obviously it didn't matter how this game did, because it was like it's they got paid ahead of time kind of thing. I don't know
the
if
contract was completed.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they'd get much subsidiaries or whatever. So yeah, the closure is no reason to not buy the game, because it wasn't going to make it. They clearly were going to do it beforehand. They just wanted to
make
sure the game was finished first, I guess. because obviously they well, you know, same reason what, you know, Skull and Bones came out, because otherwise they'd get in big trouble with their contracts.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's funny though, because I was like, oh yeah, I was expecting it to be, you know, 40 hours or so. Like maybe I'll put a little bit more time into it. I just don't feel like grinding though, so I don't know. But
yeah,
I was like, at least I'll have this finished before, you know, Zelda, and it's like, I'm finished now.
Well, maybe one day when you're bored, you can pop back into that post game and give it a whirl.
Yeah. I just cheated and I saw how much like the extra boss level for that was, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like.
Oh, just no,
I don't feel like going. And the final boss doesn't give you any XP.
Oh, that's too bad.
Which is very rude. You get 0 XP, 0 money, and like, but you get, you know, you have your clear save, and it's like, really? I just fought a tough thing like 6 levels ahead of me, and I got nothing but the end of the game. That's all I got. Yeah, so I was like, I think I was in limbo waiting for this game because I just didn't know what else to play longer than I played the game.
Well, that's the other thing. It's come out at a good time because it feels like there's been a bit of a lull between.
Yeah, like there's just enough time to get this done before like the plethora of more RPGs and stuff comes out.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, I picked up a few games in June. Like, you know, so I started some, I think 3 different 40-hour RPGs, and I sort of put them down 10 hours in, and I'm like, well, I guess maybe I'll get back into them because now I'm waiting again.
Not picking up Black Myth?
No. It just doesn't seem like my kind of game. Plus, you know, with like these games being certain prices, like I'm still waiting on Stellar Blade to be on sale.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
And you know, I won't have to wait for Outlaws to be on sale for quite as long, but we'll see how long it takes to be the price I'm willing to pay for.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like there's such a oversupply of games these days.
Yes, well, that's a thing that happens a lot. Is like so we're getting a lot of like indie games getting retail releases in Australia, and like that's great. But now I'm like, I'm actually going to have to cancel some of my pre-orders because I just don't. You know, say I was going to pick up a physical or something I already like got a code for, but then I'm like, well, now the Splatoon amiibo got announced, and that's like $90, so that's an entire an entire like new, you know, big game price.
Well, those retail releases are probably 2 to 3 times more than the game itself, like digitally too. Like if you go on Steam, and especially since like indie games usually go on sale. You know,
yeah, well, that's like the thing. You know, it's like there's one where I'm like, it's twice the price to get it physically. But then again, there's some games where I'm waiting for the physical because, say, the Marvel Capcom collection is $70 digitally, and I'm like, yeah, I will wait till November. Like if I'm already paying $70, I'm gonna pay an extra 10 or what 20 to get the actual physical copy at that point. Like,
yeah,
come on,
no, that's true.
But yeah, so once again, I mean, not too much of a gap though, because like I said, I'm just finishing up MEO. Well, I'm like halfway through it, so I picked that up the same day, and then the Ace Attorney Investigations is coming out on Friday, and I played the demo for that, and the second game demo had me like really interested. I'm like, I really like it cut off before the end of the first chapter, and I'm like, I really want to know. I want. So you know, that'll probably, I don't know how long that'll take. Maybe like I said, I dropped those RPGs and then I played a bunch of short games like the Cat Quest, Famicom Detective Club, something else. Then I was just in this lull again of like.
The Ace Attorney games are deceptively long.
Yeah, I just beat the first one and then I did the bonus case, which was quite long and annoying. So I think I'll I'll play the investigation spin-off and then get back to the other two in the first trilogy at some point.
I guess the good thing about those though is like the cases that obviously the full game is like really long when you get through it, but I like how the cases are a decent length, so you can kind of like get through a case and then put it down for a bit, and then when you go back to play another case, then it doesn't feel like it's not like a regular game where if you leave it for too long, you're kind of out of practice or whatever. Like there's been Final Fantasy games or RPGs where I'm like, I put it down for a bit and then I try to go back and I'm like, I've forgotten all the moves or I've forgotten the strategies or whatever. And now I'm like, do I just restart the game at this point? Because like I don't remember anything.
Yeah, that's with like Trials of Mana. I'm like, well, I'm pretty far into it all, and like I'm not actually that far into it. Maybe I should, like, I could still sort of play it, but I did forget how to certain basic buttons and like had to go on the menu and be like, oh, okay. Yeah, but I mean, the lull's not going to last for long. I did also forget that I have an Astro Bot pre-order because I did it through Amazon. So I'll have 2 shortish games as well. So at the most I'll maybe have like a week or so before Zelda, and then that's when it's the snowball of RPGs and stuff. Like, after that there won't be a break.
No.
So I can enjoy feeling
enjoy
the purgatory of feeling like I need to play something and then not playing anything.
Yeah, I'm currently. I'm trying to get through. I finally. It's funny because Persona 3 is a game where I started Portable like a couple years ago, and I got. I guess it was probably about 3/4 of the way through, and I put it down. And then when I went to go back, I had completely forgotten everything. So I'm like, no, forget it. I'll have to restart. And then when Reload came out, I'm now like past that point where I was before, and now I'm in the end game at this point where I'm like. I'm in the new year and I'm gearing up to fight the final boss, so hopefully I'll be finishing that up soon, and then I guess I'll have to reassess what's coming out. It's I've kind of lost touch with all the releases, so I'm going to be looking into those again.
Yeah, and I was sort of like, because like September started and I was like gonna do like the list of games I was going to get, but then I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait for the physical for this, or one like Demon School got delayed, so I forgot. Oh yeah, Key Locker is coming out, so I'll probably get that on Steam. But that I always like I buy a game on Steam and then I don't play it, and it comes out on Switch, and I'm like, I should just wait for the Switch version. I should like every time like I've got a folder called games I already had on Steam because I just
every time I turn on Steam, I find a game that I forgot about.
Did we want to quickly talk about like that Nintendo Direct, or are you saving that for with Jordan and his PAX talk?
Well, we're over an hour now, so maybe we could save that. I haven't talked to Jordan about but yeah, we could probably do that in another episode. Well, we got some other Nintendo games to talk about anyway, so maybe we'll do it all in one episode coming up. I know I've got to get a few recorded here to catch up on the the few I've missed. So
you got to catch up, otherwise, like I said, how many games are coming out after September? You didn't.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to feel like overwhelmed. So gotta get back on track here. So I guess this is probably a good spot to wrap things up for this week. Again, to everyone. It's been a few years since we've missed some episodes, so it's life came at me pretty quickly this summer, so I'm trying to get caught up, but hopefully we'll get that done. We'll hopefully not have any more gaps in between episodes, but I want to thank everyone for sticking with us, and I hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and it'll be we've just started a Visions of Mana Discord channel over at the Thirsty Mage Discord for anyone who wants to pop in and have a chat about that. Paige has got y'all beat for getting that done. So I mean, if you need help, you can ask for help. But otherwise, there'll be some other people who are just starting off. If you want to kind of play along with some other folks,
I suppose.
Yeah. So we'll see. Paige has set the gauntlet for 23 hours. So if not that it's a competition, but I mean, if you wanna if you want to kind of gauge, that's out there. That's out there now. So anyway, Paige, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode, and I guess we'll see everyone out at the next Thirsty Mage. Bye for now.
Bye.